I have been conflicted for 2 or 3 days about what to talk about. And I had thought back on Monday that I would talk on what I think we're going to talk about, which is one of Bob Waldrop's newsletters, and irony of all things, he's here. But he listed 10 reasons that, 10 current trends he saw in Christianity that, in his opinion, were the top 10. So I read that, reread that about a week or so ago and thought, well, you know what, that's going to make a good sermon because I'm going to talk about those 10 things and talk about Jesus, and I think that's what I'm getting ready to do. So I'll hand out those newsletters to you in just a second, and we'll probably do that. The conflicted part for me was I'm doing my devotions in Jeremiah, which in and of itself, you know, probably most people think, if you're going to read the Bible, why in the world would you read Jeremiah? But I just have this neurotic way that I'm going through the Bible. But I was in Jeremiah, and there's a section, if you want to read it at some point in time, in Jeremiah 32 and 33, where it really is the Lord reassuring Israel and Judah that He has never left them. And you may remember last week we talked about, for those of you who are here, we never know, this church is going to be a totally different crowd on any Sunday for those listening by YouTube. But I'm just not going to get over it for at least this time. So last week we talked about how the Lord stays with you in your consequences. He doesn't forego your consequences. How in our mind, we would think the loving thing that God would do would be to waive our consequences. And when He doesn't waive them, then we question His love. And so we kind of talked about that last week, how good relationships have accountability. A marriage should have accountability. Husband to wife, parents should have accountability to children, and why should we not be accountable in our love relationship to the Lord? And there are times when things aren't going right that we basically want to be unaccountable. We don't want to go through whatever it is that we've brought upon ourselves. But the Lord usually allows that to stay. Now, He may shorten the time, that's up to Him, but what He does promise is that He'll stay with us through it, and that it'll actually become kind of a story, a testimony, a great thing that you've gone through in life, if you allow it to be so with the Lord in His path. So anyway, I'm reading in my devotions Jeremiah 32 and 33, and some personal things come in my head, which I won't share for the whole world. But nevertheless, here's what I want to say. There's a valley outside of Jerusalem, the Valley of Hinnom. And what the Israelites or the people of Judah would do in order to bring help from the gods, small g, what they needed is that they would, the Valley of Hinnom was known for where they would sacrifice their own sons and daughters. So in my devotions, I kind of went as I can do from time to time. It doesn't happen all the time. It certainly doesn't happen when I drive, I hope. But I sort of go into, for lack of better words, a bit of a dreamy state, a little bit of a vision kind of state. It happens every now and then. Maybe it's happened to you. But so I find myself pondering over this Valley of Hinnom, and I realize that, and this doesn't have anything to do with sermon, this is combining two thoughts. I realize that the Valley of Hinnom really represents fear and trembling. Now you can only imagine, think about it, your crops are not doing well. You're a mother, you're a father, you've got a child in your hand, and you're getting ready to throw them into a fire. Now imagine that for a minute. Imagine the emotional potential trembling of at least one of the parents. Maybe one of the parents is convinced that's what they need to do and they're going to do it anyway. But maybe the mother, let's say, is mortified, scared to death, puts on a brave face, but inside her body is one trembling bone. And imagine the child. Imagine the fear and trembling. So what came in my mind in this little dreamy state, which is good, I think, that I'm sharing this, is that you have Valley of Hennons in your life. It may not be child sacrifice, but I'll guarantee you, if you're like me or like anybody anywhere, you have places of great fear and trembling. Whether you're going to have ankle surgery, whether you don't have any money to pay your mortgage, we can get so fear and trembling oriented on the inside, we feel like we're at the edge of the Valley of Hinnon. And I know with that fear and trembling, it's from the enemy, because what it produces in your life is sheer terror, dread, and an immense cloud of darkness. And so what I did in this dreamy state was I built an altar on the edge of the Valley of Hinnon, where in my mind I'm putting rocks, and there's flames coming up, and then I put an angel and Jesus there, and then I walk away from the Valley of Hinnon. So by way of just sharing this with you, if you have something, this doesn't have anything to do with Bob's newsletter or sermon, but if you have something in your life that is causing you great fear and trembling, walk away from the edge of the valley. Walk away from it. Set up an altar in between you and it, where God is between you and it, and allow the Lord Jesus to protect you from it and walk further and further away from it in His strength and mercy. I found myself doing that this weekend on my front porch with things in my life. So I would encourage you, I feel certain that there have been or will be or is right now fear and trembling. It's on the prayer cards. Well, the 200 people that pray for Church of Hope, they email me. I know there's fear and trembling. And it really is that anxious moment that a child or a parent might have right before the horrific act of what happened in Judah. And God punished them for it. Consequences came to the nation of Israel and Judah for such despicable things. And God may deal with us with things that we do or don't do or paths we've chosen, but in chapters 32 and 33 of Jeremiah, He promises not only that He'll stay with them, but that He'll restore them. Not only will He restore them, He will heal them. And not only will He heal them, He will bless them if they'll just walk away from the valley. So I would encourage you to walk away from whatever valley faces you. Switching gears. Was that all right to bring that in? That'll preach one day, won't it? Bob Waldrop has been a good friend for a long time. Deborah has as well. Deborah shared something very sweet with me as well. All children are sort of my adopted godchildren of some sorts. You don't know that. I'm sure you wouldn't want to do that. But anyway, I love what he does, which is he helps churches like us and others in Bible study groups kind of know what's happening. Because we really don't know, none of us take the time to get the big picture of what's happening in America with culture and Christianity and churches and so forth. But Bob takes that time on behalf of us all, gathers up information, facts, truths, and is willing to share it for us to kind of shortcut the process for us so that we kind of know what's going on.